Now, long-term fans of Outsiders will remember this show was born the night Donald Trump won the 2016 election 7 years ago. Well, as we head into 2024, it looks increasingly likely, as, by the way, I predicted on the show over 9 months ago, that bar any mishaps, Donald Trump will be the next US president, possibly even from behind bars. Indeed, in what is a dead giveaway as to how terrified the Democrats and the loony left are, many left-wingers in America are already asking, what will the return of Donald Trump to a second term look like?
What would a second Donald Trump term look like?
Well, he cannot be the next president because if he is...
You can't imagine the things that he's going to do.
That means he can shoot the First Lady.
We're going to see violence, the likes of which we didn't even see on January 6th.
Make it illegal to run against him, to throw his opponents in jail, to shut down the media.
He will make himself into the Fuhrer, and he will make everybody raise their hand and salute him.
Using martial law against the American people.
Terminate the Constitution.
To rewrite the Constitution.
Create mass internment camps.
Mass internment camps, shooting the First Lady. Oh, and more violent than the violence that never happened. Right, got it. OK, these people are completely deranged, but they're not alone. Please ignore all the fools from both the left and the right who are so panicked by the thought of a return of Donald Trump. The question is often posed in politics. Ask yourself, were you better off 3 years ago or 4 years or whatever than you are now? Well, the same question can be asked of the entire planet. Was the world better off 4 years ago during the presidency of Donald Trump? You bet it was. You better believe it. Take Russia. Having begun its aggressive military expansionism under President Barack Obama, Putin behaved himself during the Trump years, only to re-embark on his Greater Russia conquest project, having been convinced of American weakness and cowardice, thanks to Joe Biden's ham-fisted and botched withdrawal from Afghanistan. Indeed, The Spectator Australia 3 years ago, after Biden was elected, our cover story by David Adler and cover image by Sarah Dudley and Ben Davis accurately predicted the death of peace throughout the world under Biden and Kamala. The Trump haters all sneered at us, but we were right. Emboldened by the Afghanistan fiasco, despots and warmongers around the world seized their chance. Russia invaded Ukraine, and of course also emboldened by the billions of dollars Biden offered for hostage releases, Iran took the message and orchestrated Hamas's deadly invasion and hostage-taking and rape and murder of October 7th. The danger is that the third member of the axis of evil, China, may also feel emboldened within the next 12 months to pursue its own military aggressive agenda. Peace nixed, indeed. Terrific work, Joe Biden and the left. Before Joe Biden, under Donald Trump, Sunni Arab countries were prepared to enter into meaningful peace treaties with Israel. Under Trump's extraordinary Abraham Accords, the greatest hope, I believe, for Israel and for the future of the Middle East is Donald Trump returning to office. That would be the best Christmas present America could give the world 11 months from now. So I'm in a positive mood as we head into the summer holidays. To quote Paul McCartney, it's getting better all the time. Or as John Lennon quipped, it couldn't get any worse. Speaking of John Lennon, we have a segment here on Outsiders that we call Instant Karma. This is what happens whenever crazy woke lefties, or Islamist terrorists for that matter, get what's coming to them. Here's a member of the Turkish parliament, 54-year-old Hasan Bitmez, a fundamentalist Islamist who, after railing about Israel will feel the wrath of God, well, just after he left the podium screeching about Jews, whom some say are God's chosen people, poor old what's-his-face was struck down with a heart attack.
Tarihin azabından kurtulsanız, Allah'ın gazabından kurtulamayacaksınız. Hepinizi saygıyla selamlıyorum.
Birleşime 20 dakika ara veriyor.
Yes, looks like God listens to preachers after all.
Instant karma's gonna get you. Gonna knock you off your feet.
Instant calm, disgracefully. And sadly, the guy did die, but there you go, that's what happens. Disgracefully, the Labor government of Anthony Albanese and Penny Wong this week completely betrayed Israel and the Jews, Australian Jews, yet again, by voting in the United Nations for an unconditional ceasefire with Hamas, much to the approval of The Guardian and all the usual anti-Zionist suspects, the ABC and so on. In doing so, Australia went against our two most important allies, the US and the UK. Worse, Albanese and Wong had us deliberately aligning with the likes of Iran, Afghanistan, and other such human rights luminaries. You can judge a country, or more importantly, a government, by the company it keeps. Let me reiterate what is now crystal clear. At every single opportunity, whenever presented with a choice between the interests of Israel or the interests of the Iran-backed terrorist-supporting pro-Palestinian anti-Jewish forces at large in the world, Labor has at every occasion chosen the latter. The Liberal Party, under Peter Dutton, has always favoured the former. Another reason every person who holds dear the existence and the values and the heritage of Israel and the Jews must, at the next election, vote for Peter Dutton and the coalition, or One Nation, but not for the Teals, who are all over the place on Israel, not for Labor, the great betrayers, and certainly never, ever, obviously, for the Greens. By the way, just to show how stupid Wong and Albanese and the rest of them are, by voting for a ceasefire, which won't happen, by the way, they are voting by definition for the possible survival and perpetuation of the evil Hamas regime. The very regime that, as Sharon Haskell said to us earlier in the show, many Palestinians in Gaza themselves are desperate to be rid of. Here's just some of them, and you won't see this footage on the ABC.
أنه قرار سلم خلاص معي هبل هذا اللي بيسويه هبل قتل شعبه السنوار قتل شعبه
اللي دمروا البلد واللي ابو العبد انت اكبر حنين ويا هنيه ويا عباس يا هنيه ويا عباس وين الكهرب وين الغاز وين الكهرب وين الغاز
احنا دفعنا ثمن تذكرة حماس احنا دفعنا التذكرة لها.
In essence, Labor has voted to keep those people imprisoned by Hamas, whom they hate. Nice work, Penny and Alba. You do a great job. As you heard, one of the reasons Gazans are so furious is that the medical and food aid that is trucked in and paid for by us, governments like us, gullible Westerners, it doesn't necessarily go to those who need it. Rather, Hamas has armed guards, reportedly preventing the public from getting their hands on the big trucks, while only a small amount goes to the public. The true obscenity of Hamas is that it is run by murderous thugs who have enriched themselves through terror. Yet the woke West happily pours billions of dollars into the so-called pro-Palestine movement. As this sketch from Israel's top comedy show points out.
The children of Gaza are suffering. They have no food or medical supply. But you can help. Please open your heart and make a donation by clicking in the link below. Shukran and God bless you.
cannot believe what we have brought on Gaza. Thank Allah that we are safe in the plaza. There's nothing left to eat, like a Ramadan retreat. I don't really give a cause I'm hanging in my sweets. Ask money, my dog needs new money. Gaza skies is red, but Qatar is always sunny. You just give me money, life is pretty funny. Gaza Skies is blurred, but Qatar is always sunny.
Cry harder.
We need more money.
People of the world.
Here you go. Humour often tells those truths that others then won't say. All jokes aside, the stupidity and naivety of the woke left is beyond absurd. Many things in life we must make a choice. Not everything can be consensus. Not everything is morally equivalent. Watch here how Hamas and UNRWA educate Palestinian children versus how Israel educates Israeli children. First, here's the Palestinian kids being educated.
يابا كيف قلت لي؟
نمسك الحجار ونرمى عليه.
تحبوش إسرائيل؟
نكره.
And here are Israeli kids being educated.
בהרבה דברים, למשל שצריך יהודי ואני ערבייה.
כן, אבל איך אתם יכולים להיות חברים אם אתם כל כך שונים?
כי אנחנו גם דומים בהרבה דברים.
Palestinian kids being taught to kill and hate Israelis and Jews, while Jewish and Israeli kids are being taught to live in peace with their Arab neighbours. Unfortunately, it's not just in Gaza, but also in the West Bank that Arab kids are taught to kill Jews. Here is the great, albeit controversial, British journalist and good friend of mine, Melanie Phillips.
You can see it in their educational materials, in which they teach their children. This is the Palestinian Authority. They teach their children that their highest calling in life is to murder Jews and steal all their land, to take Jaffa, Tel Aviv, Haifa. These are Israeli cities. They want the lot. And they say so. They also say it's holy war, that Israel is intent on destroying the Al-Aqsa Mosque. This lie has ignited Islamic jihadi hysteria since the 1920s. It is a total lie.
So there's no hope?
There is no hope as long as the West continues to fund, legitimize, sanitize, and incentivize the genocidal attack on the Jewish people in the state of Israel. That's what's kept this terrible war going.
Your tax dollars go to educating some of those Palestinian kids. And our kids in our schools are taught many of the similar kind of tropes that Melanie was referring to. These woke dimwits, and they are not alone, who profess to show their support for a free Palestine are merely useful idiots perpetuating, as would our Labour government, the agony of the Palestinian people being led by a murderous regime in Gaza. When confronted with the evils of the Japanese regime in the Second World War, did we say, hey, Hirohito, would you like a permanent ceasefire? Maybe we could swap a few POWs. What do you say? No. We finished the job. When we confronted Hitler, we didn't have woke lefties in power saying, oh, it's how we defeat Hitler that matters. We need to bring down the Gestapo, the SS, the Luftwaffe, the Wehrmacht and the Einsatzgruppen proportionately and show restraint. No, we didn't. We finished the job. Speaking of woke lefties, many people have asked me, yeah, but how come Hamas was able to attack in the first place, alluding to some kind of conspiracy theory? And it's a good question, one that has certainly bothered me since October 7th, having been to Gaza and saw the border and seen the extraordinary and elaborate defence networks and technology in place. So I was very interested to see an article this week in the Jewish News Syndicate by highly respected journalist Caroline Glick. Read it for yourself, but in a nutshell, and obviously I'm paraphrasing. She is saying that it looks extremely likely that it was the woke, Netanyahu-hating lefties within the defence forces who are to blame for deliberately ignoring and silencing months of warnings about what Hamas were planning, because it didn't fit their woke narrative. And even more disturbing, as I suspected all along, the whole Supreme Court controversy over the past year plays a part in that woke undermining of Israel by the BB haters. Read the article. As I keep having to point out, the whole left, wokeness simply being a modern iteration of communism and subversive Fabian socialism. Wokeness has done and continues to wreak indescribable havoc on the prosperity and security of the Western world, ours included. But let's end on a positive note. As I said, next year could well see the return of Donald Trump to the White House. Don't believe the Trump haters. This can only be good for the world. A weak US, and more importantly, a woke US, is a disaster, not only for America, but for us all. And as for nearer home, the Albanese government is about as inspiring and exciting as your average Christmas cracker toy, and about as functional. Since losing the voice, Albanese has lost his entire lefty self-confidence and woke cockiness. He's lost control of his government, his cabinet, and its agenda, and he's lost the respect of you and mainstream Australia. As I said on this show last May, we are being led by possibly the least impressive and dopiest government in our history, and that is saying something. I asked last week for who was the silliest clown in the cabinet, and sure enough, right on cue, desperate to hold on to the crown, Chris Bowen stepped up and gave a welcome to country to the Bedouins of Dubai, whose entire prosperity and well-being comes from fossil fuels. Merry Christmas, Australia. All I want for Christmas is for Australia to hurry up and put Peter Dutton in the lodge before the rest of the world writes us off as a laughingstock.